Hello everybody, this is GeneralJannis, and today in Chaos Tactics I'm looking at the Battle of the Terminators, Blightlords versus Space Marine Terminators for the new 40k 10th edition. So all the rules we have so far, looking at who has the advantage, who has the upper hand when these two clash on the battlefield. So with no further ado, let's get started. So today, the 21st of May, enjoying a long weekend here in Denmark, and next week I'm going to the last, probably my last small tournament of the 9th, taking of course my death card, fighting one more time for Arcs of Omen. But as I said in this video, focusing a bit on the Blightlords versus Space Marine Terminators, looking very quickly at their stats, comparing them a little bit, then calculating the best weapons and loadout for the fight, and then some results, taking account both the baseline data and then how they can be buffed by army rules, the strats we have seen, and etc. So with no further ado, let's take a look. So looking briefly at the stats for the Blightlords and the Space Marine Terminators, I have been doing some videos, so both on both units. The Blightlords, of course, in the Death Guard faction focus. And of course, for Death Guard, we have the army rule, -1 toughness, Nurgle's gift, that starts off with 3 inch and then goes up to 9 inch after the third battle round. The detachment rule gives us sticky objectives, no further buffs, let's say, to this. And basically, the stats from the Blightlords and the Loyalist Terminators are nearly identical. The main difference is toughness 6 now for the Blightlord Terminators and 4 inch move instead of 5 inch move, toughness 5 for the Terminator. So that's basically the difference. The same objective, control 1, same 3 wounds, and as we know so far, no disgusting resilience for Death Guard, which would really have been helpful. The Blightlords, apart from all the weapons, they have also the blistering fusillade. This allows them to reroll once to wound when targeting the closest enemy in range. So almost like the previous plague weapon, a bit better now, but it's not useful. It doesn't apply to melee. And if we see at the Space Marines, their army rule gives them access to doctrines. There are 3 to choose from, and giving them some good combinations. They can be selected once per battle for each of the 3. So one of them gives them, for example, advance and then be able to shoot, and then one is quite strong, giving them advance and be able to charge, etc. Will not really come into effect in this calculation in this video. The detachment rule, on the other hand, really strong. Oath of the moment. Select one enemy unit per command phase and then reroll every Space Marines attacking that unit can reroll all to hit and all to wound rolls versus the selected target. On top of this, the Terminator squad, this has a +1 to hit if it selects the oath target. So instead of hitting on 3s, we'll be hitting on 2s, rerolling everything, wounding, whatever, rerolling everything with oaths of the moment. So in this table here, I'm summarizing all the weapons for the Blightlords when they are attacking Terminators. The comma in the numbers is my decimal point. It's a point, so please don't get confused by this. If we start with the shooting table, we have first for 24 inch and then 12 inch range, and then I have calculated what is the damage output if the enemy is not in contagion, or if the enemy is in contagion, maybe they are close to a sticky objective, who knows, or another unit. And we can see here that comparing the Plague Combi Bolter and the combi weapon seems to be replacing the combi meltas and things like that. The combi weapon is quite good against the Terminators here because it's anti-infantry 4+, and it gets devastating wounds. So basically on a 4+ to wound, you deal mortal wounds instead of normal wounds. So there is no save for the Terminators. So twice the damage from the combi weapon compared to the bolter. The Plague Combi Bolter is a bit helped when the enemy is in contagion, but nothing super strong. The combi weapon doesn't care because it's still wounding it will still be wounding on a 4+ here. And then we have the Plague Spear coming into effect at 12 inch range, dealing 1 wound on average here. And then comparing Blight Launcher and the Reaper Autocannon. The Reaper Autocannon, better damage output with sustained hits and devastating wounds, regardless of the range, and doesn't really care about contagion. The Blight Launcher also has higher strength, so it doesn't bother with the contagion of the Terminators. And then moving into melee, we compare here the Biotic Blade and the Flail of Corruption. The Flail of Corruption, 1.5 wounds on average for the Terminators versus the Terminators. The Biotic Blade, 1 wound on average. And if we add the stratagem for sustained hits, we get more damage output. If we are near an objective that we already control, we will get sustained 2 on the 6s to hit. You generate 2 extra hits in melee that can be quite strong, and you see the damage output increasing. Yeah, the flail is stronger than the blade as expected. Then looking at when the Terminators would be using their weapons to attack the Blightlords. So here we have again the shooting weapons. We have the Storm Bolter, doesn't do so much damage output, especially at 24-inch range, only 0.1 wounds, let's say. Oath of the Moment, you can see doubles, more than doubles the damage output. And then we have the Heavy Flamer within 12-inch range, and not as good as the Plague Spewer. And we have the Cyclone missile launcher. The Crack missile is better than the Frag missile in this matchup. And the Assault Cannon, like the Reaper Autocannon for the Blightlords, seems to be the strongest shooting weapon. Assault Cannon can do almost 1 wound here. And then in melee, we compare here the Power Fist, the Power Weapon, and the Chain Fist. The Power Weapon only damage 1, Power Fist damage 2 and Strength 8, good versus the Blightlords. The Chain Fist is not as good as the Power Fist. It's more an anti-vehicle type of weapon. But the biggest effect here that we can see is that when Oath of the Moment is selected, if the Blightlords are selected for Oath of the Moment, this more than doubles the damage output of the Space Marine Terminators. They reroll all to hit, they reroll all to wound, and they get +1 to the hit rolls. Many of the things then hitting on 2 pluses, and with a plenty of rerolls, you can see the damage output really improves. So, selecting some loadouts for the battle here, I have to assume some things because we of course don't know all the war gear rules. We don't know the point cost. We don't know, of course, this, but assuming something like a current configuration for the Blightlords, one of them takes the flail, replacing his shooting weapon. Then we take one of the Reaper autocannons instead of the Blight launcher. Then we take the Plague Spewer. Then we take 2 of the combi weapons, not the combi bolters here versus the Terminators as we saw. And then 4 of the team, doesn't matter if they have swords or axes, they have Biotic Blades. So 4 Biotic Blades and a flail in melee, and then the other weapons for the shooting. And for Space Marines, they will also take their Assault Cannon as their best weapon. They will also take the Heavy Flamer to do a little bit more damage at close range. 3 of the guys will have a Storm Bolter, and then as we see on the picture, 4 of them seem to have Power Fists, 1 with a Power Weapon. If you can select probably 5 Power Fists, this is the best combination here. And here I'm also adding 1 of the missile launchers. I would assume 1 of the guys can take the missile launcher on his back. So, assuming now a battle where we don't have any buffs, we don't use the stratagems for Death Guard, no oaths for Space Marines, no contagion at range. So with a configuration that was discussing before, when the Blightlords shoot at the enemy at 12-inch range, they will be doing 4.2 wounds on average, and then they charge and they do their melee damage output with the flail and the blade, Bubonic Blades. They will be doing 5.5 wounds more. So in total, in one turn, they would be able to dish out 10 wounds on the Terminators, killing 3, leaving only 2 left. If the Terminators get to go first here, then the Terminators will be shooting at 12-inch. Here's no buffs. They will be doing less damage than the Blightlords would be doing. So 2.8 wounds with a missile crack launcher and the flamer and the storm bolters and the assault cannon. And then they charge in and do the melee primarily with their power fists. That will be doing 4.4 wounds. So in total, 7 wounds, a little bit more than 7 wounds. That means 2 Blightlords killed. So with no buffs, the Blightlords are more killy in this matchup. And over a course, then the Blightlords would be winning here with no buffs. Now, if we look at the battle result when we add more buffs, so here the the Blightlords will be using the stratagem that we have seen for melee to give us exploding sixes, and we are assuming the enemy is foolish enough to stay close to an objective that is sticky, and then the Blightlords can do every 6 gives 2 additional hits. And then we also assume that the enemy is in contagion of range, and for the Space Marines we assume that the Blightlords are selected as the Oath of the Moment target. So here the Blightlords shooting here doesn't really change so much, similar wounds as we saw in the previous table. And then, but in melee with the stratagem we can do 8 wounds here, around 8 wounds. So in total in this combo with the buffs, the Blightlords will be doing 12 wounds, killing 4 Terminators here. But the main difference, of course, is for the Space Marines, now with the Oath of the Moment, rerolling everything. When the Terminators shoot at 12 inches, they will be doing 5.8 wounds, almost killing 2 Blightlords at range. Then when they charge in, doing 8.9 wounds, almost killing 3 Blightlords. So in this combination, we're very close to 15 wounds damage dealt. This is almost wiping the Blightlords. So with Oath of the Moment, the Space Marine Terminators, their damage output is transformed. So reaching to the summary and final thoughts of this hypothetical comparison and battle, let's say the Blightlords have some good weapons versus elite infantry. They are not so strong against the enemy vehicles, as you saw in my battle in the Imperial Knights faction focus, where I pitted 5 Blightlords versus an Armiger. It wasn't really super efficient to deal damage there. The lethal hits for many of the weapons of the Death Guard help versus the high toughness of the Space Marines. Some of the weapons have this anti-infantry and rerolling once to wound versus the closest enemy. That also helps. There are no really built-in rerolls in melee. The weapon, the strength of the melee weapons is only strength 5, not very high AP. This is a bit helped by the contagion range, bringing the Terminators down to toughness 4. So the Blightlords will be at least wounding on 3 pluses, but no rerolls here. And lethal hits helps, and you can give the strat with sustained hits. And the Reaper autocannon seems to be the best shooting weapon, so probably a must-have to deal a little bit more damage. The Space Marine Terminators, on the other hand, as a base case, they do less damage to the Blightlords when the Blightlords shoot or charge at the Terminators. However, the Oath of the Moment more than doubles the damage output, giving the Terminators the opportunity to wipe out a complete squad of Blightlords in one turn. And the combat doctrines not really in effect here. On the tabletop, the combat doctrines gives a bit more flexibility for the Space Marine player to make advance and shoot and position easier his Terminators than the Death Guard. Death Guard would need probably the Land Raider to transport the Blightlords or deep strike them, and then you have to do your charge, because if you miss your charge with 4-inch move, you're not getting any places. And we don't, so far in this edition at least, we didn't have any advance and charge opportunity. Let's see if that might come. So basically in this matchup, the Oath of the Moment wins. Neither Terminators win. It's basically the Oath of the Moment detachment. This rule is the strongest one. Of course, I haven't included any leaders here. We don't know yet what they can do. They could be making the Blightlords faster or giving them rerolls or things like that, but so also can the Terminators be buffed. So this concludes the video. What do you think about this comparison of Blightlords and Space Marine Terminators? If you want to discuss further, please visit the Discord channel. If you want to support my efforts to bring you all this type of analysis, please visit my Patreon page or become a YouTube member. And with these words, GeneralJannis signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.